Literally country by country. I'm not looking any further than Mongolia right now, to be honest. I've got 30-day visa, and the 30 days I want to enjoy heavily in Mongolia and just not worry about the next China border. Or because I think if I did, and I've had moments of panicking about borders and visas and Googling it, and then I've gone, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So there's no point being like, they're not going to let me in. If they don't let me in, then I have to figure it out. And that's the joy of bike touring. Like, it doesn't go to plan. And I've learned to enjoy that. That used to stress me out. But now it's like, there's always another solution. It might not be the best one, but there'll be a different way to go about it. And that's how I'm trying to look at this trip.
Welcome to the Seek Travel Ride podcast, where we share the stories and experiences of people who have undertaken amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hello everyone, before we get into today's show, I just wanted to give a shout out to Redshift Sports, who have come on board and are supporting Seek Travel Ride. Redshift Sports manufacture amazing suspension seat posts, stems, and some great handlebars as well, which will make your bike adventures that little bit more comfortable. So if you are one to take your rides off-road or just on rough roads or are doing long distances day after day, check them out, Redshift Sports. Check them out for a more comfortable ride all round. I've provided a link in the show notes, and thank you once again to Redshift Sports. Now, lastly, before we get into this interview, I just want to say I had a couple of occasions mid-interview where my microphone for some reason was a little bit glitchy. It's okay, when you hear it, you'll still be able to understand what I've said, but don't do a double check. It's not your headphones, it was my audio. Thankfully, it wasn't throughout the whole interview, it's just a few instances, but that's what's going on there. Okay, enough of that now, let's get into the show. Hello! I'm your host, Bella Malloy, and I'm exceptionally excited to introduce my guest for today's episode of Seek Travel Ride, Claire Wyatt. Now, fans of the show, you will recognise Claire's name from previous episodes when we covered her incredible bike adventure across Australia. On that particular journey, Claire certainly took herself on the road less travelled, experiencing the absolute best of Australia, from the crowded cities on the coastline to small rural communities, as well as the isolation and vast expanses of the Australian outback. For many people, arriving in Perth after over 14,000 kilometres of bike travel would seem a fitting way to close that chapter of bike adventures and a return to the daily grind of normal life. But cycle touring has really gotten deep under Claire's skin, and after some long overdue downtime spent with friends and family, she embarked on yet another journey, one taking her through Southeast Asia. She'd explored Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Malaysia and Singapore. This signalled a return to where it all started for Claire, as indeed it was in Cambodia where she first discovered the joys of bike travel. But, as with all adventures, there were a lot of new places to explore, cultures to learn about and rugged roads to discover. It's fair to say she's got a great taste of the region now and once again ended that bike journey with a yearning for more. Fast forward to today and I'm speaking to Claire on her final day at home as she prepares to embark what may well be her biggest adventure yet, one which will take her from Mongolia all the way to the UK. The panniers are full, the bike is packed, a huge journey lays ahead of her, one with an extra sense of purpose, as this time her ride is called Biking Against Bombs and she's fundraising for the Mine Advisory Group, an advocacy body which helps clear landmines and make land safe. To say I'm excited is a ridiculous understatement. I absolutely cannot wait to dig into Claire's experiences since we last caught up and also learned so much more about the huge adventure which is just about to begin. Claire, a big warm welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Bella. It's so special to be back on for a third time. I can't believe we're here again. Time's flying.
I know. We always joke one day in the far future, Claire, you and I will just be co-hosts, I think. We get together that often.
Just do a joint podcast coming soon.
Exactly. Bella and Claire's campfire chats, coming to a campfire near you.
I love that. I can't wait to come and meet you in person as well.
Most definitely. My house is always open to you, Claire. Now, you know the question that I normally ask my guests to start each and every show, but I can't possibly ask you the same question for a third time. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. And I want to know, Claire, can you remember the very first day that you took on a bike tour? So I want to know your memory of the very first day on your very first bike tour. Tell me all about it.
Sure. So I was in Cambodia. So COVID had hit. Cambodia wasn't too strict, so I was still allowed to ride around. And I just finished my job, been made redundant, and I took a bike, borrowed a bike from the bike tour company I was working at. And I started from Sihanoukville, which is southern Cambodia, and it was about 35 degrees, super nervous. I mean, all my equipment was so very, very basic. It was my first ever trip, so I had basic panniers and not many tools with me. And I'd said I had this big goodbye to a couple of friends who were in a car, and I was cycling up a hill, and I literally about the first kilometre, and I got a puncture. So my friends were in the car. They saw me like stopping, so they got out, and we all fixed my puncture together. And that was my very first hour of bike touring.
Oh, what a welcome introduction of life on the road.
Exactly.
I wonder how many punctures you've actually fixed since that very first one.
Honestly, under 5, which is mad. I've really touched wood because I hate punctures.
It's always on the rear tyre too.
Yeah, always on the rear tyre. But no, even in Australia, I had, because I was running tubeless, I had all the equipment to do it. So I didn't really get many punctures. It was amazing.
Are you running tubeless for this upcoming trip as well?
No, I'm not. I've just swapped to kind of really good Marathon Plus tyres, which are supposed to be like a nail can get through, and you'll be, I'm hoping they keep the punctures away.
Here's to smooth journeys, and if there are any equipment bumps on the road, that they're very manageable and you can problem solve your way right through them as well.
I hope
we don't want to talk about problems, and I don't want to talk about that big journey just yet, although it seems extra special, Claire, to be talking to you just hours before you look to board a plane and head off. I can only imagine what your stomach feels like at the moment.
Yeah, no, when you said, do you want to do it on Monday, I was really wanted to, because I want to share with people the emotions before a trip. I mean, actually, about 2 weeks ago, I had my biggest wobble, and I was saying, I just don't know if I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to get on the plane. And I was kind of, really struggling to prepare for it. I wrote a little blog and I posted it, and then I deleted it because it was very emotional. And I got very worried messages, but emotions are part of it. You've got to be able to, life in the UK, I've great family and friends, but to then go and willing to risk it and go away for a year, of course there's going to be emotions, and it's unstable. You're living out of bags, and there's a lot of things that go through my head, but I'm very happy to say I'm just excited now. All the wobbles are out the window, and I'm just ready to get on the road.
I often wonder, Claire, when I hear that from people, and my gosh, I so resonate with all those different emotions and different feelings, taking something new on. I guess I've never taken a bike adventure that big. The only thing I could compare it to was, it's similar but very different. When I and my husband, we made the decision to leave our life of stability, a salaried job in the corporate world, and our home, which we sold as well, our lovely friends and family, and boarded a plane to go and live on the other side of the world, totally unknown. And
yeah, I
remember many times before that thinking, oh, am I trusting myself to make the right decision? And I think it's the same sort of thing. But with bike travel, Claire, are you able to ground yourself and reflect back on what you've achieved to convince yourself that, oh, I do have everything, I can do this? You, I hope, can take a sense of self-confidence in what you have achieved to date and what you're embarking on as well.
Yeah, I try really hard to reflect and really remember what I've done, because I'm constantly moving, and as I said to you earlier, momentum is a big thing for me. Keep on going with these adventures. But it is also important to stop and be like, oh, wow, look what you've done already, Claire. It's so, 5 years ago, I wasn't cycling, and to have seen lots of the world, it's just been incredible. But I am a highly sensitive person. So it's a bit of both. I can be confident in myself, but still have those feelings of, oh, have I got everything again? And, packing the bike boxes and making sure you're underweight and in the box and things, all of that stuff worries me more than the actual, when I'm on the road, I'll be absolutely fine.
How long's the flight over to Mongolia?
So I've got a stop in Istanbul, so it's 4 hours to Istanbul, and then Istanbul to Mongolia, I think it's 9 hours.
You've got all the time in the world to just try and be zen and get yourself set up there. And do you leave from like Ulaanbaatar?
Yeah, that's the capital of Mongolia. That's where I'll land, and it's quite cool because there's a WhatsApp for any cyclists in Mongolia, and it turns out we're all at the same hostel. So there's some people that have finished that are going to take my bike box because they need a bike box to leave. So that's going to be a really nice way to start the trip, being with fellow cyclists who have done Mongolia. So it's going to be really cool to meet some, as you always do, meet some amazing people.
And swapping stories too. And
Yeah.
It's funny, I just sort of think that idea that you get to pass the baton of the bike box and the bike box gets to go on another adventure. It is something that I've come across with, well, I guess myself, with other friends and other people. It's one of those things that you do sometimes think about is the logistics of even just getting to the start with your bike and then to leave a place with your bike too. I love that you're going to be able to swap stories with people who've been where you were about to go.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be really cool. And that's the power of social media and WhatsApp and being able to find these people before you go. It's pretty special. So yeah, really, really excited to get some advice from them as well.
Hey, awesome listeners. Are you loving what you're hearing on Seek Travel Ride? Do you want to keep the good vibes rolling? Then head over to our Buy Me a Coffee page and show your support for the podcast. Just a little virtual caffeine love can keep me brewing up the content which you adore. Click the link in the show notes, buy me a virtual coffee, and let's keep this podcast party going. Thanks, legends. Now back to the episode.
Do you ever turn to that type of stuff when you have had doubts about what you're doing in a bike tour or a journey? Like, do you find that through social media that can actually be a helpful thing to reach out to people and sort of draw on other advice?
Yeah, definitely. I try to message people about things, and it's really nice seeing young solo women doing it as well, and seeing that other people do choose different ways of lifestyles, and that's okay, you know, and there's lots of people doing it. I like seeing that, and yes, but then it can also sometimes got to be careful on social media as well. So I love reading, so I read a lot of books. Jenny Graham's book that we were talking about, I loved, and yeah, I've got quite a few cycling touring books on my shelf. So it's lots of places to find useful information.
I've got to ask, because I know that in Australia you did have one of these in your panniers. Have you got any of Dervla Murphy's books making the journey with you this time around?
I haven't. I gave it away a couple of weeks ago. I love giving Dervla Murphy books to people. You know, when you meet a special person that you know is going to enjoy reading it. I actually met. So when I was cycling across Australia, there was a girl cycling the Nullarbor, the different direction, and she was from London. And we met for lunch about a month ago in London. And it was really cool. We'd never met each other in person, but we were cycling around Australia at the same time. And it was really cool. She got me a Bundaberg ginger beer and I gave her Dervla's book. So it was a nice present swap.
When you mentioned Bundy ginger beer there, listen to the podcast, I say it so many times, I'm in a small French village, but something I'm really, really stoked about is the fact that our local supermarket stocks Bundy ginger beer. And Claire, without a doubt, without fail, every time I have one, I think of you.
There you go. They're coming into London as well. I've seen them quite a lot now, but they're my Australia special drinks. So I'm trying not to have too many.
Obviously, this mega trip that you're planning, it's about to start. And Australia was an absolutely monumental journey. Since we last spoke, Claire, you have done something in between as well. You've actually completed a big journey through Southeast Asia as well.
Yeah.
How does it feel to reflect back on what you've achieved since then?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's almost like I forget, and I think a lot of people didn't realise that I did do another 8 months on the road. I forget myself in a way. I love Asia. It's been a big part of my life. I'm living in Cambodia for 4 years. So essentially I flew to Thailand, went into Laos, Cambodia, back to Thailand, then to Sri Lanka, Malaysia and Singapore. So I actually did a load of riding. But it is generally, if you want a bike tour, I just think Southeast Asia, if you can deal with the heat and the sweatiness and the humidity, it is one of the most incredible places to cycle tour. It's not too difficult. There's food everywhere. It's, you know, hotels, guest houses are so cheap that you don't even need to camp most of the time because it's too hot to camp. But yeah, I loved it. It went so smoothly. Met so many incredible people, and yeah, I love Southeast Asia.
I want to know what it was like to head back there, because we mentioned at the very start, that's where you first started bike touring.
Mm.
And in our very first episode, I think we chatted about this because you were working at a bike store, then the pandemic came and you took your touring bike as a redundancy
Yeah.
and went on a bike tour.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you'll sit at home and you watch a TV show and it'll flash up a scene that's somewhere where you've actually been.
Mm.
You always sort of feel, oh, wow, nostalgic about that.
Yeah.
Returning back to tour in Southeast Asia, having done the big trip in Australia, what was it like to return back to some familiarity?
It was lovely. I have been back since I went to Cambodia after the pandemic to see all the staff that I worked with, because we were a team of 50 and a lot of them were like family to me. So I went back, but it's just a special place. I love the culture. I love the food. I feel so safe, like as a woman alone there. Yeah, couldn't be happier. And then I did Thailand first. I was pretty unfit because after Australia, I just had 3 months off the road. And the first route I did was the Mai Hong Song Loop, which is like a motorbike loop, which is so hilly. So that was quite a shock to the system to do that as my first week, but it was amazing. And then headed on through to Laos and then got to Cambodia and went to my best friend's wedding in Cambodia. So it was a really special trip to go through Cambodia on the bike.
Oh my gosh, it would be. And when you're talking about taking on a route there which was like a motorcycle loop, I can just imagine the hilly countryside, because whenever I've spoken to guests who've travelled through Southeast Asia, there's a few things I think about. As a food lover, of course, the first thing is the food, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But then it's also like the climate and the lovely people in Southeast Asia, but it's the countryside, and the countryside is beautiful because it's so rugged and it is hilly terrain that you find yourself in there as well. That first few days, it really was sort of like jumping back into the deep end a bit with fitness then, going up on all those hills. But were you finding it was a struggle, but at the same time you were just loving it?
Yeah, I knew how hilly it was going to be. I could see the elevation. And I was just like, I've got hours to do it. I'd get up early because of the heat. But yeah, northern Thailand is very, very hilly. Yeah, I just took it easy each climb. I don't get too scared anymore because I know if I can't make it that day, I'll just pitch my tent or I'll try again in a couple of hours. And no, I loved it.
It must have been such a stark contrast to your touring experiences in Australia heading to Southeast Asia, because I sort of think of them as poles apart in terms of landscape, scenery, culture, population, and stuff like that. What was that like, having had so many thousands of kilometres touring in Australia to then all of a sudden going back into the big rush of Southeast Asia as well?
Yeah, for sure. I did miss the long, lonely roads of no cars. I mean, I went into Bangkok on the bicycle on like 4-lane motorways, and that was insane with exhaust fumes in your face, and you're so hot. And for some reason, I don't know why in Thailand, the traffic lights are so long, so you're waiting at a traffic light in honestly 35 to 40 degrees heat, and it's not a quick traffic light system, and you've got the motorbike exhaust on your face. So yeah, I definitely missed the outback in those moments, but it was exciting and different. I really, really enjoyed all of it as well.
Did you click into the madness of organised chaos, which is the traffic flow there as well?
I did. And I luckily, when I went into Bangkok, I met a Chinese cyclist on the way called Will, and he was really calm. So he went ahead, but he was dodging. He was obviously very used to it. I honestly was watching him more terrified for his life as he was crossing 4-lane carriages, and I was too scared. I was on the side waiting, but it was very nice to have some company riding into Bangkok.
I've not experienced it myself, but I have got friends and family who have, and it's the one thing to a T they all talk about is just like the chaos of the traffic, like in Bangkok or Ho Chi Minh City or something like that. And somehow it works, but there's like an element of you just got to trust that people will see you and respond around you as well.
Yeah, I'm a big high vis person, so I'm always in a bright and yellow high vis, and I trust that the Thais and the Cambodians, they know what they're doing on the motorbikes. So yeah, you have to trust, otherwise you'd be too scared to do it. Yeah, the element of trusting everyone.
Do you get a bit of an adrenaline rush and a buzz from being in it as well?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's moments of fear, but more, let's get through this. And actually, when you go to somewhere like Bangkok, you're not far from the countryside. It's just getting through the really scary bits, and then you're like, oh, okay. And then you're out of it. So, no, I enjoyed the rush.
I was going to ask that actually, because outside of those big cities, What's it actually like day to day on those sort of more rugged routes? I imagine there's roads where there is quite a lot of traffic flow. And then are there times where the countryside is a quiet place as well?
Oh, 100%.
I hope that doesn't sound like an ignorant question. It's just, as an Aussie, I know cities are busy and I know the countryside's quiet and it's very stark in between. And I want to know, is it the same in Southeast Asia as well, or is there a high population everywhere?
Oh, 100%. There are definitely quieter roads. Like, I'd always look for the smaller roads when I was mapping. And yeah, you just take a little alleyway and you might find a pathway. And yeah, and there was a little bit of farm dirt roads. Like, my tyres are big enough to go off-road, so when I could, I would. But yeah, you've got the smaller fishing villages outside of Bangkok. Even in Bangkok itself, if you take the canal pass, I hopped on a few boats to get me away from the motorways. So on just in the middle of Bangkok, you put your bike on a car ferry and it's a 2-minute journey. And then you can skip a bit of the highway. And yeah, there's ways to get around it if you have time and have a look. I was worrying for a long time about Bangkok, and then actually it was brilliant.
I love just even that little bit of knowledge that you can pass on, because I know, like I said, I've certainly been told about, the traffic's really insane there, and it's something that I've thought about because I would absolutely love to discover Southeast Asia on a bike. I think it would probably be one of the best ways to discover it.
Yeah.
Even knowing the idea that you can skip sections, you can catch a boat here, you can be on a canal path. It doesn't always have to be mad and hectic either.
Yeah, there's so many options. I mean, a lot of cyclists do get the train into Bangkok because they don't want to do it. I would advise if you're experienced enough and calm, like, I think you'll be absolutely fine. Or yeah, you just look at alternative options. But there are ways around the bigger cities. Yeah, the Southeast Asia, I would say Thailand to Singapore is a really good 6 months bike trip for anyone looking for a good adventure. I would recommend it.
I know this will change depending on the country and the weather and things, but was there like a flow to your routine day to day when you were touring there? Like, did you have a routine of, your wake up routine, your breakfast routine, how long you would cycle for each day before you stop and things like that, or little mini milestones of the day that you'd seek out as well?
Yeah, it was really, really hot, so I was always up early. Again, because I was working the whole trip again, so I always had that routine because of work. I'd do 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evenings. It was always ride as much as you can in the day. I'd stop a lot, and I was drinking a lot of water and electrolytes because I was sweating ridiculous. So I normally wouldn't really ride from 12 till 2 because that was the hottest time. Yeah, long breaks, go and eat loads of delicious Asian food and then get back on the bike. So it was a really relaxed trip, actually. I would say I was doing 100k a day. Yeah, I wasn't in a hurry, and it was a very calm trip.
There'll be listeners who'll hear you say, I was doing 100 kilometres a day and, 60 odd miles, and their minds will be blown about doing a daily distance like that. But I think the big thing to take here is it's not like you have to do it at pace. It's not like you have to do it all in one go. Like, you are having solid breaks between food stops even.
Yeah.
Which is a great way of looking at it. And I guess a great way of looking at a trip full stop is if you looked at a big trip, for example, your Mongolia back to the UK trip, if you looked at that and looked at Mongolia and forever thought, oh my gosh, I've got to get back to the UK, it could be overwhelming. But yeah, I'm guessing you look at things very differently in that you're just looking at it from, mini milestones along the way.
Yeah, literally country by country. I'm not looking any further than Mongolia right now, to be honest. I've got 30-day visa, and the 30 days I want to enjoy heavily in Mongolia and just not worry about the next China border, or because I think if I did, and I've had moments of panicking about borders and visas and Googling it, and then I've gone, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So there's no point being like, they're not going to let me in. If they don't let me in, then I have to figure it out. And that's the joy of bike touring. Like, it doesn't go to plan. And I've learned to enjoy that. That used to stress me out. But now it's like, there's always another solution. It might not be the best one, but there'll be a different way to go about it. And that's how I'm trying to look at this trip.
Is that something that you reflect back on as a big change in you? Just knowing that, things will happen and I'll get through it. At the very start, when you were planning your trips, were you a huge planner? Like, did you used to have like a really defined route that you would follow and places where you'd need to stop each day?
Yeah, I would say Australia maybe. I was so organised to the T in Australia. I had a spreadsheet. I knew exactly every day where I wanted to go, how many miles, where the petrol station was. I knew I had it all listed, and this trip I haven't. So something has changed since Australia. I've kind of let go of it has to be done. I think Australia, because I had a flight out, I had an end date. Whereas this, I don't know. I'm like, if it takes me, I might do it quickly and be in Turkey by Christmas, or I might not. So it's very, I'm not planning too much in terms of dates and times and schedules, which I'm enjoying. It's making me less stressed.
And something else, which, we've touched on briefly here, which I also really love about the way you travel too, is it's not just about riding your bike each day. Like, you do take pauses and you do go and learn about where you are and do little side quests, for lack of a better word, as well, don't you?
Yeah, no, for me it's really important. Like in Mongolia, I want to go stop and talk to locals and go and see their homes, and if I'm allowed to, and just be part of it. And I love camping. I love setting up for the evening and finding a beautiful spot to camp. So it's not about, let's ride till I can't walk today and then I'll just put my tent up. For me, it's, I want to go find a really cool spot by a river and have a lovely evening. So it's a bit of everything. But I am not competitive, is not the word, but I like to feel like I've worked out hard in the day, but I also like relaxing and taking it all in as well.
And I imagine you would have had days where the plan didn't go to plan, like your daily plan didn't go to plan, something happened and you've had to change tact. Or I guess even the beauty of learning about something that didn't exist to you beforehand, and then happenstancing of coming across somewhere that was like, wow, I didn't know this was here. Yeah. And then taking your time. You've packed that flexibility in, so to speak, in your panniers as well, haven't you, to pause and learn?
For this trip, definitely. Like I annoyed myself in Australia because looking back, I was that's how I felt at the time. But there were some beautiful places that I could have camped in Australia. But I was like, no, I've got to do 60 more K today. So this trip is where I'm going, okay, if I do 10K and I like the look of this place, I might stay for an extra day. So I'm really it's going to be very cool to have that flexibility this trip and not be in a rush.
Something else that's going to be different about this trip compared to your Australia trip and your Southeast Asia trip is you have extra flexibility in a way because you're actually not going to be working during this trip either, are you? Because it's a question I've been asked by many listeners is they'll listen to a guest episode, see that they've taken so much time to explore a country and go, well, how could they afford that? How did they do that? The way you did previously was you actually worked during your bike tours as well.
Yeah, no, I handed my notice in about a month ago. I only finished last week. So, yeah, I had an incredibly supportive manager and the company was all remote. So I saw the job 2 years ago and it said remote work. I met my boss years ago in Thailand, so it's another story of fate and, coincidence. But she was travelling South America and I was travelling Australia and I did the emails and just had to clear the inbox. So it was an incredible way to, when I got to Australia, I honestly think I had about £800 in my bank account. And then I was working for them throughout the trip, so I had a weekly income. There was no way I would have been able to do the Australia one without a job. And then since then I've saved up for this next trip, and I'll be very transparent. I've got about £5,000 for this trip, and if it goes, that is my budget. I think it's good to be transparent about it because I've saved up and that's what I've got for the trip, and it's going to be pretty tight. I think when I get to Europe it'll be pretty tight, but wild camping and all of that, I should be able to do it.
It's an amazing thing to think £5,000 is going to be able to take you across, and you're going to gift yourself all these amazing life experiences with that as well.
Yeah, I know it sounds a lot, but actually when it's a long time of there's a lot of travel and you never know, bike mechanics and more visas and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes budgeting. I've obviously got my stove, cooking more and all of that. So it's going to be a good challenge.
Something else that you were speaking about, leaving Bangkok, you took ferries or something. I think when you were in Laos, you took the 2-day ferry that a lot of bike tourists take. Is it to
Luang Prabang?
That's it.
Yes, yeah, I did. That was cool. It was quite a struggle to see my bike on top of the boat. They tied it on. I watched them tie it on. And I was that's going in the river. But no, it was a really cool thing to do. The boat was a bit overpacked, so it was a bit uncomfortable, but it was beautiful doing it.
What a way to see the landscape go past as well, different from behind the handlebars to on the water.
Yeah, completely different. I was itching to get off when I was I need to get back on the bike, but it was a really cool way to travel and met some lovely people on the boat. Definitely advise it.
Were there other ferry journeys along the way through Southeast Asia in different countries as well?
There would have been small little car ferries over. I did wait for one ferry for 2 hours that never came. So then I had to do a 70-kilometre detour, but that's, again, part of it. I risked it thinking that you see on the map a peninsula and you see a ferry port and you have to risk it, that it might be running or it might not. Started looking for local fishermen and trying to give them $5 to do it, but they wouldn't. It was like a 2-minute journey as well, but then no one came, so I had to go all the way around on the main road. So that was a bit of a shocker, but that's, again, part of it.
I'd love to know the conversation you had in your head on the way back.
And I was like, you idiot, you knew it.
I love that you're embracing the idea of it all too, because, and I guess this goes with the style of bike that you're choosing to travel on with your Surly there, is you have fitted out with thicker tyres and you are looking at exploring more off-road routes.
Yeah, like this Mongolia trip, probably going to be pretty much off-road, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, I think the first day I have to get out the capital city, so I'll be on a busy road, and then, I'm just going to try to take dirt roads.
That will be brilliant. And I imagine you had your fair share of dirt roads in Southeast Asia. Speaking with previous guests and seeing their stories or YouTube algorithm channels that suggest it to me as well, I think Laos has some pretty...
Yeah, Laos is ridiculous. I don't know what's happened. I think they would try to rebuild the roads in COVID and they ran out of money, so they've given up. And now the road is just this dusty underlayer of... every day I was head to toe. I would honestly wipe off my face. And I've got asthma, so it was quite a dusty trip for me. But kind of funny. Like, I love that kind of thing. It's like, that's what we come for, an adventure, and to end up head to toe dusty is part of it. There were lots of big potholes. You have to be very careful going down some of the windy roads with the big potholes, but that's where I was very grateful for my Surly, because it's so big and tough that it kept me safe down the hills.
I'd love you, if you can, to take me down a road that was maybe slightly questionable at the time and your experience of maybe a route planning misadventure.
Yeah, I guess there was one in Laos that I knew was going to be hectic, and it was a huge climb up. I actually ended up pushing the bike. We were above the clouds, and I was fully loaded on a 20+% hill, and I just ended up pushing the bike, and there were motorbikes going past me, waving and beeping, and got to the top, and there was a very small coffee shop that served an incredible iced coffee. I was like, okay. And I took in the view, and I was like, this is great. Like, now I've just got to go downhill. And I looked at the road going down, and it was terrifying. Like, I was excited. I was like, I've just done all this hard work. I'm going to just be able to go down slowly, go down quickly and get to the bottom. It was easier to walk down than cycle down the hill because the potholes were so deep. You would go to avoid one, then you go into the next. So I walked a big section of that because there's risk and there's no point. Like, just walk. But it was a long old, it was about, I think it was 15 kilometres down the hill.
Whoa, that's a long hiker bike.
Yeah. So I on sections I got back on and then got back off, but it was pretty crazy. I took some pictures and I couldn't really believe that. And I know that actually a couple of weeks after I had done it, a cyclist broke his collarbone on that downhill section, or shoulder, I think, and because he ended up in a pothole. So it was really bad, but that was crazy.
But it's a story to tell now as well.
It's there's all these stories.
I want to take you back to Cambodia, which is probably a country that really has your heart and soul, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I want you to take us on the Khmer Ancient Way. I saw that this was also a route that you took, which you said, I guess it is a route, but it's not a route at all, is it?
No. Like, I found it online and was like, this looks amazing. There's so many temples in Siem Reap, but you've got the Angkor Wat complex, which is quite near the town, and then the Khmer Ancient Way was kind of an hour outside of town to some other smaller temples, and with these beautiful ancient bridges. And I was just, I want to do that, but the route was not clear at all. I did 2 days, and the start was, I was like, okay, this is a dirt path, but tractors are going on it, I'll be okay. And then suddenly even the dirt path kind of goes, and you're in the jungle. And a few farmers came through and smiled, and I said, is this the way? But you've got grass up to your head, so it's just like, this can't be the route, but it is. And I got very lucky because an ultra marathon company, I can't remember the name of them, had done this route, and they'd left orange markers tied to trees. So I kept seeing their orange markers, and I was like, well, this has got to be the way. But honestly, you wouldn't walk through it. It was crazy. And I actually fell off pretty hard because I couldn't see the floor, and just a quick downhill came. I went over the handlebars. So it was a mad trip. I came back bruised as anything, and really I should have been a bit more careful because there are landmine warning signs all around there. So I wanted to promote this Kamae. The aim was to make it a bike packing route, but I think there needs to be more safety. With the landmines, I would advise that if it's going to be made a path by anyone, that it's more signs and more careful planning. But it was incredible, and I got through the jungle and ended up at this ancient temple. No one was in it, and I hiked a bike through the temple. And then some sleeping policemen were so shocked that I was there, and they were like, "What are you doing?" So I gave them $5 and said sorry. And I went and stayed with this charity called Bee Treed Adventures, who are stopping the poaching and the foresting in Cambodia. And they live out in the middle of nowhere, and they have this tree house, jungle house, that they let people come and stay in. I mean, it's not for people that don't like spiders or snakes, because it is open tree house. It was incredible to sleep in, but pretty wild.
Lucky you had your Australian experience to sort of harden you up there, right?
Exactly, and I have to say, there are more snakes in Asia than Australia. I saw so many snakes in Southeast Asia, and I saw maybe 3 or 4 in Australia. And so, I mean, Asia's got its creatures as well.
Yeah, and it's creepy crawly creatures too.
Yeah, big spiders, yeah, all of it.
I sort of see you as not someone who gets too irked by those sort of things. Are you? Does spiders really concern you at all?
I'm a bit of a wimp.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I am. I mean, I'll do it. No, I will do it. In Thailand, there was one, I was staying in a little wooden cabin, and there was a huge spider when I went to bed right above my face. And I was like, I can't move it. I would be too scared to move it, but I did go to sleep with it above my face. And a lot of my friends were like, I'd never do that.
You would have come across huntsman spiders in Australia, no doubt.
I didn't see loads. Yeah, I would. I did get a lot in Australia when I was riding off-road on the rail trails. The spider webs would smack me in the face. And you're searching your face and you're like, oh, is it on me? That I didn't like that. But I'm a bit of a wimp.
The classic in Australia with a huntsman spider, it's almost like tarantula-like, but it's not a tarantula at all, but it's huge. Every now and then they'll come and walk across your car windscreen, and you do the whole test with the windscreen wiper blades, and then it doesn't come off and you realise it's on the inside of the car.
No, that's horrible.
I used to like the huntsmans though, because they used to eat the other spiders. So if I ever saw a huntsman in the house, never ever would I kill a huntsman. I'd relocate it if anything. I used to just call it Fernando. Every huntsman I see is Fernando.
Fernando.
I
got quite used to spiders in Cambodia because where I was working, we would take customers out on bike rides around the temples. And one of our tour guides, Somnang, and there was a few of them, and his favourite thing would be to put his hand down a tarantula hole and get a tarantula out and show the customers. And he did it once to someone that had a phobia of spiders, and we got a 1-star review. So we got 1-star review for it. So I had to tell all the tour guys, please check whether they like spiders first. Then you could do the spider trick. Don't scare the customers. But they would say that when they were kids, that was the game. They'd put their hands down the tarantula holes and get them out. Pretty cool.
I'm mixed about this question because it just feels like a stupid stereotype, but I do know it's a thing. In a lot of Southeast Asian countries, you can buy insects and stuff to eat at markets. Did you ever do that?
Yeah, and honestly, my colleagues at work would eat crickets and things as a snack. So yeah, I got quite used to the old insects. Yeah, they enjoy, but no, and you can get the classic deep fried tarantula and the other bits, but no, I didn't do those.
In a way, Australia hardened you up to that too, because I'm sure that you ate your fair amount of flies riding through Australia.
So many. I've heard there's quite a lot in Mongolia, so I've got my fly net. But yeah, do you remember that video of all the flies near my mouth and my nose? Yeah, that was. Oh. I was having a bad day anyway, I think, that day.
Yeah, you were. I think you were angry at the flies for sure. They are so annoying though.
Yeah, they are. They're there's nothing quite like it.
Oh, here in France, I've really learnt that what they sell as fly spray doesn't really do a thing. I think all the pesticides and what we use in Australia are banned here in Europe potentially.
Yeah, too strong.
And so it's really like you throw your euros away at getting any fly spray. It's doing nothing.
Yeah.
I don't even think it has an aroma. Anyway.
Useless.
I have heard that Mongolia can be bad for flights because there's lots of horses there.
Lots of horses, yeah, and yaks, and yeah, I'm really excited to see it all.
Big, wide landscapes too that you get to look forward to there.
Yeah, I'm buzzing.
Something you were mentioning with the Khmer Ancient Way, you were mentioning the temple. There was also ancient bridges there too, weren't there?
Yeah, they were stunning. Pretty obviously not destroyed, but yeah, there's not much of them left. A few of them I was waiting to see the bridge, and then they might just be a pile of the bridge. But no, it was absolutely stunning. It would make an insane bikepacking route if it could get cleared a bit more. Yeah, just a bit more safety. But that was a big motivation to raise money for the Mine Advisory Group. Going on that ride and seeing how close like the warning signs were to families' houses and things, I was like, this is crazy. Like, there's kids running around, and you're saying there's a possibility that there's landmines in the field next to them. That got me thinking, right, Clay, I haven't raised money before because I've always said, this is my passion. Do I want to ask people for money? But this one really might be my last biggie, who knows? So I was just like, this is the time to do some good. And I've also got friends that are amputees from stepping on landmines in Cambodia. So it feels quite very close to my heart and something I would love to help with. And I've had lots of chats with the Mine Advisory Group, and when I get to Azerbaijan, if it's open, the land border, they're going to let me go on projects and see what the work they do there. So it's going to be really cool to do it for them.
If I recall correctly, Claire, when we very first spoke for the very first time, I think one of the very first bike tours you assisted on was a group of amputees riding through Cambodia.
Exactly.
And, we were talking about Laos before. I mean, that's a country that's got, I don't know the stats, but if I said, thousands or millions of landmines that are still there.
Thousands, yeah. And I mean, in Cambodia, it's one person a week is killed by a landmine in Cambodia still, which is just insane. And the conflict, they're working in over 15 countries. They're the first response in Ukraine, and yeah, they're doing incredible work, and it's definitely going to a good cause. So yeah, I'm really happy to fundraise for them.
Be exceptionally proud that you're highlighting this as well. And listeners, I will be providing links to Claire's fundraiser in the show notes, and I fully encourage you to check it out and increase your knowledge about landmines in general. I think I came across something, Claire, where you were talking about, a landmine only costs $3 to actually manufacture, and it costs how much to actually get rid of just one?
I'll get the stat again, but yeah, it's insane amount of money to clear.
Gosh, I'm an anxious nuthead. I can't imagine taking on that Khmer Ancient Way in the first place and then being that close to landmines and being lost. Oh, I would have just done my head in.
I was very happy, obviously, the marathon had been by and put the orange tags up, but I was like, if I miss the tag and I go off the path, it's not a good idea. So yeah, I've struggled with advertising that one because I was like, I'm not sure I want to encourage people to go and find the Khmer Ancient Path right now. I think it needs some work first.
It'd be awesome to think that maybe 5-10 years or something, that might be something. Work may take place. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
Maybe even talking to the Mine Advisory Group about that area and saying that, there's a really, that would even be something. Could talk to them about clearing some of those, that section. And yeah, there's lots of possibilities.
That'd be a brilliant full circle on fundraising for something and then having it directly impact an area that you've been to assist people that are living nearby there as well.
They were really cool because my target's £25,000 to fundraise, and they were like, do you want it to go to a certain area? And I said, you guys are just helping so much, wherever you think it needs to go. They're doing incredible work.
It is devastating when you think about just how many places need it.
Yeah, so much conflict.
And I guess that's a bit of the unknown in your route too, is conflicts that have taken place in countries. I know I've spoken to guests who've, had issues with the Kyrgyzstan-Tajikistan border opening and closing due to conflicts and stuff like that. It is a constant in our world, unfortunately.
It's not a simple route in that sense. There's quite a lot to think about. Before I think people did maybe pop into Russia or do Iran, and it's even in the last 5 years, all of that area is going through conflict. So it's going to be, I'm going to have to keep quite up to date with what's going on in these countries. So, and maybe I'll have to change the route, who knows? So that's where being flexible is important.
It's one country at a time, like you say, and your focus, you've got Mongolia to enjoy first and foremost. Then you move on to, I believe it would be China.
Yeah.
One country at a time, and there's so many for you to enjoy. that don't need your anxious worries about them at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, a country that has seen conflict that you did go on this cycle tour to enjoy was Sri Lanka.
Yeah, Sri Lanka was incredible. Yeah, wow. Sri Lanka was a curveball for me. I saw a cheap flight from Bangkok when I'd done Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, came back to Bangkok, and I was like, maybe I'll pop out to Sri Lanka. And I'm so glad I did. And I was able to borrow, so I left my touring bike in Bangkok and I borrowed a bicycle from the company I used to work for. They still have an office in Sri Lanka. So they gave me a bike and some panniers, which was awesome. And wow, what an island. I went up to the northern section where there had been conflict, and I think I saw 2 other tourists up there. Jaffna is still quite, it's safe now, you can go up there, but they have landmines up there. The mine advisory group were working up there, so there's very recent conflict there. But it was beautiful and so much kindness. And then you go, so I went up north first, and then I came down to Sigiriya into the Central Highlands with the tea plantations, and it was mountains, and it was stunning. And then down to the beach and the southern section. Yeah, if again, a country I'd 100% recommend going on bike tour.
Had you known much about it before you got there?
Sri Lanka, not much, but I have a good friend who lives in Colombo. She's Sri Lankan and she worked for Grasshopper when I was working there. So she met me on the first night and gave me loads of information. And I actually have another friend there. So yeah, I was lucky to have some good connections that helped me plot the route. And Sri Lanka had always been on the cards. Me, my mum and my brother were booked on a bike tour in Sri Lanka before literally like the March of COVID. And it got cancelled because of COVID. So that was a shame. So it was sad to not do it with them, but I'm glad I got to go see it.
I wonder in the far future, maybe you will do it with them.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to take, yeah, exactly. I mean, my brother's got 2 kids now, so we'll see. Yeah, maybe.
Oh my gosh, Claire, total sidetrack. Yeah. You're going to be like the best aunt to these.
I know,
You're going to be the cool aunt with all the amazing stories.
I don't feel like a cool aunt abandoning them now, but they're not old enough yet. It's fine. When they're older, I'll get them on the bikes and we'll make some good memories, but they're very young. No, I'm really excited to get a cargo bike that they can all sit in and, yeah, be a cool aunt.
Sri Lanka was a country that I really enjoyed learning about while you were touring through there. And I guess when I think of Sri Lanka, what did I know? I knew about the recent conflict there. I knew about the tea plantations. And I knew it's, surrounded by the ocean. It's an island. And that's about it, which I'm really ashamed to say. I did know some Sri Lankan food. In fact, was it egg hoppers? Did you have egg hoppers while you were there?
Yeah, egg hoppers, string hoppers. Yeah, the curry was amazing.
And thosai as well?
Yeah, dosa, yeah, all of it. And really, like when I went up to Jaffna, it's so close to India. There used to be a ferry running, so you could actually bike to Sri Lanka, go up into India, but it is closed at the moment. But yeah, the food up in Jaffna, delicious, incredible.
Aromatic and super spicy.
Yeah, super spicy. One thing I forgot to mention about Sri Lanka is the elephants. So there are wild elephants, and I was on the road and I was deep in listening to music, and you know what? It's always the same song when something happens. I swear to God. So in Australia, when I fell and I hurt my wrist, I was listening to Get Jiggy With It, Will Smith. When the elephants came in Sri Lanka, I was listening to Get Jiggy With It. And I was bopping around, and then I went on my left. I was like, there's a family of elephants. But I had been warned to be extremely careful, and it's not something you stop and take a picture. Like, I had to get on the other side of the road. I waved a car down. They blocked me from the elephants. That was the first family, and then there was a lone one later on. He came right out onto the road, and luckily a big truck was coming on the opposite direction, and he reversed, and I cycled and followed him. It was kind of amazing, but it was kind of very scary. And tourists are driving tuk-tuks now in Sri Lanka, and lots of them are going too close to these wild elephants, and the elephants are flipping.
Getting stomped?
Yeah, being stomped, flipping the cars, and almost I was like, this is so cool, but I was terrified as well because they're big animals that are protective, and so it was an amazing experience, but definitely made me more admiration for someone like Steph, who in Africa and all her lion encounters and the elephant. I was like, hey Steph. I was like, oh my word, like that was my little Steph moment.
Oh gosh, I can't even imagine.
Very incredible, yeah. Sri Lanka blew me away. I had the best month there actually. It was I missed my bike, really missed my bike.
That's right. You had a hire bike in Sri Lanka and it had a questionable rear tyre, didn't it?
A very questionable rear tyre, and I went through the rear tyre pretty quickly. I did quite heavy riding actually out there. I can't remember the distances. You know, some days of 140k and the back tyre just was not good quality. It just went, by the end of it, the people I borrowed it from, they were so surprised that I made it on that back tyre. I tried to find another one, and that's what I would say about Sri Lanka. There's not bike shops, so it's quite tricky to find good quality tools and things. So that was interesting.
If you had the benefit of hindsight, would you have looked at a way of being able to take your bike with you, or would that have just been, I guess it's not insurmountable, but it's just an extra thing to try and figure out on the road? It's hard.
Yeah, I nearly did, but no, I probably wouldn't. It was a challenge using a different bike. I was a bit sore after, like my upper body. I think just from different positions and a different bicycle. No, it was fine. It worked out really well.
You know, this journey you're about to embark on, Claire, Mongolia to the UK.
I know, I can't believe it's actually happening.
I'm so proud of you when I say that out loud. I love that you're doing this. It's brilliant. I was going to say, are there changes you've made to equipment?
I have a change. I've added 2 bags on the front, not full panniers. I didn't want a rack, so at Ortlieb I've got these quite cool ones that can just slide on the forks, so you don't need a front rack. So they're just another couple more bags. I just needed a bit more space. I've got myself a new handlebar bag just for ease, because my last trip I had a roll-up front handle bag and I could never get my stuff out easily. So just a few small changes. I changed my brakes, and I've got an incredible mechanic down the road who's supporting the ride, and he was like, no, we're changing your brakes, and I just let him do his thing. So I'm very lucky to have him. And he was like, if I could pick any bike to ride across the world, this would be it. So he's smashed it, and I'm really grateful for his help.
What's the name of the bike store? Is it Project Rides?
That's the guys in Scotland who built it originally, and then it's Matek Cycles.
Shout out to you guys, you're brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm so lucky. They're just literally, I live in a small village on Google Maps. And I was like, there's not a bike mechanic in the village, and he's moved from South Africa with his family. I think he used to work for the Specialised Pro Team, and he's just literally a couple of K down the road. Very lucky to have him. And his logo alongside your logo is on the jersey.
Oh, I feel so amazed that you put Seek Travel Ride on your jersey.
It's awesome. You've helped me share the story so much. So I really, really wanted to have it on there.
Oh, thank you. Back to bike stores and mechanics helping you out. There would be an element that you have learnt so much because you were at a bike store before you even started cycle touring. But I want to know, have you taken time, like with the benefit of experience, are there things that you've sought out to learn about bike mechanics as well?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yes.
Absolutely not. No,
Go for it. Caution of the wind. Out you go.
I'm a kind of, how would my mum describe it? If I can't open it, I'll force it open. Like I'm just a forceful fixer. Of course, I've learned on the road. I've had horrible moments where I've had to fix chains, and it takes me a long time, but I will get there in the end. But yeah, no, I've always been so lucky. Honestly, Bella, like every time I've needed help with a bike thing, I've been close to a shop or been a car stops and they have the tool that I need. It's those guardian angel moments on the road where I might not have that in Mongolia, but who knows? So yeah, I've been very lucky that my small bike mechanic knowledge has pulled me through it all this way.
I think there's also an element of setting out with rugged gear or robust gear in the first place and trusting the equipment that you've got. I'm not saying that things don't come out of left field and an equipment failure could happen, but even the fact that you've cycled over 40,000 kilometres in so many different countries and you can think that you can count on one hand the amount of flat tyres you've even had.
It is actually mad. I don't want to jinx it.
No, I'm going to knock on wood.
Yeah.
That's me knocking on the wood there.
Yeah.
Good old French oak. It'll be good.
It'll be good. She'll be all right. Yeah, I've been very lucky.
Have you noticed in yourself a different air of anticipation about this oncoming trip? It's a journey you've thought about for years that's going to be a reality. The way that you have prepared for this and for each tour since you've taken them, do you ever notice any changes in your approach?
Yeah.
Just with the experience that you've garnered?
Yeah, this one I can tell I don't know if I'm purposefully not, I don't know, I'm not thinking about it too much, but I feel quite calm for this one. I've wanted to do this for so long, and I just keep saying, even if I go and I don't make it all the way back to London, I'm never going to regret starting. If in 50 years I hadn't done this, me and my best friend were chatting about it. She said, you'd be unbearable if you didn't go, because all you would talk about your whole life is how you didn't do the trip that you'd wanted. So she was like, I'm really proud that you're trying. And yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Like, just go get it now. This is the time. I have no roots here. I mean, I've got all my family, but I don't have any bills coming out in England. I don't have a mortgage, and I really don't have anything here. I'm living out of bags. So I get that it would be really hard to pack up your life and do what I'm doing. So that's why I'm like, it's got to be now. But if I wait another year, I think I'd be too tired. So it's like, just go and get it. Go and get it now.
The other thing to think is you're an accomplished, very capable, smart person now. You're still going to be a very accomplished, capable, smart person at the end of this trip. If in the middle of it you decide to do something different, you're still a very smart, competent, capable person. You'll be able to get on your 2 feet and do things as well. It's not like the decision to take this trip changes being able to do things in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm changing a bit. I'm excited for, I'm excited for riding in England, and I'm excited for other things. So it's cool to have that after the trip as well. It's such a privilege to be able to go and do this. So it's like pinch me moments that I'm like, wow, I get to do this. And that's really cool.
Most certainly. We talk about pinch me moments. Something recently I've been asking guests has been about moments of awe. I don't know if you know this feeling, but when you're riding and the landscape reveals itself in front of you, and it is almost a pinch me of awe. Yeah. Wow, what am I seeing? If I was to ask you, again, anywhere in Southeast Asia, or I guess it could be anywhere that you've toured, if you want to pick one in Australia as well, what are those moments of awe, one that comes to you straight up?
The first one, it was in the outback somewhere. I was just having the best day. I didn't want it to end, and then the sun was setting, and I was the only, literally just one of those straight roads where you can't, it just goes and goes and goes, and I could just see the horizon 360, and I just rode in the middle of the road, and I just cried. And I was like, this is just insane. I'm so alone. And I'd been alone for quite a few days, and I was just like, I stopped, actually. I did stop, and I just stood in the middle of the road, and I was like, this is insane. And that was definitely one of those moments that you're talking about, like the in-awe moments. And I was just like, 99% of people probably don't get to experience the moment like that. I don't know, in the outback, it was insane. It was beautiful, and I felt really happy with my decision.
Oh, I'm literally covered in goosebumps because I'm just picturing myself on that road and that feeling and that time of day in the outback, that 360-degree horizon from just being in such a landscape as well. And
then it was the silhouettes as well on those days. Like, you'd be riding on the road, you can see your silhouette. And it was, I don't know, it was all just very, it was incredible. And they're the moments that keep me pushing on with the ride for sure.
Have you noticed also, I guess on reflection, any changes in yourself? I don't want this to get too deep and meaningful, but you've taken some amazing, vast journeys. You've done them solo. And I'm not to say you haven't had moments with people. We talk about Southeast Asia. There's people all around you. You've had your solo moments in the outback in Australia, but you also have been in cities and you've seen friends and family interspersed. But when you get back to, say, like when Australia finished and when you finished your Southeast Asia journey, when you were back at home in the UK amongst family and friends, have you ever had that sort of, not above the body experience, but have you ever sort of sat in a room and just reflected on how you've changed and even how you perceive things back at home now to beforehand? Like 5 years ago when you first started, or 4 years ago when you first started, to what you are now. Do you see those changes?
I don't know. I think I'm a different person when I'm on tour. One of my friends said that. She went, because when I get home, I'm very, I'm a bit of a clown with my mates. I love a beer, and they're like, how are you so capable when you go on tour? And like, they're just like, you must really change. Like, they're not saying that I'm not like that in normal life, but they're like, we see a completely different side to you when you go and tour. And then I think I come back and I relax, and I don't know. I hope I've changed. I hope it's made me a better person and kinder, and I really cannot wait to one day host people like they've hosted me. I try to stop in the street if I see someone needs help, because I've had that. So it's just, I think that sense of me, I would help anyone if they needed anything. And going up, if I did see a cyclist with bags, and I'd go up and say, hi, do you need anything? And just believing in the best in people and keeping that good human spirit alive, because I think we need it in the UK more than ever. So yeah, But I do find it, I will be honest, I find it extremely hard coming home as well. So it's not because of the people, I love the people, but it's a completely different lifestyle. So I sometimes feel like I have to mould again when I get back. Then I keep pushing and saying, no, I'm going to go there. So yeah, I've learned a hell of a lot about myself. And I think when I finally stop, that's when I'll be able to reflect. I think I've known I wanted to do this Mongolia trip. I knew after Southeast Asia I wasn't staying for long. So it's been a long time coming. So maybe I haven't noticed the changes as much.
What are things that you're looking forward to, especially then on this journey? We've spoken about Mongolia and the landscapes there. And I know that you don't have a pre-planned specific route back to the UK. You are human. It's only natural to anticipate. So what are you looking forward to experiencing the most?
Being alone again. What a loner. No, I'm joking. The peace, going to sleep, being tired, like going camping, and that feeling of, I've fulfilled a day. I've cycled all day and an incredible place. Yeah, I think that fulfillment, the adventure, meeting people, but also as I mean that, so like being alone in remote places. I think I love the remote side of it and seeing how I react. I guess maybe it's a challenge for myself I look forward to. And but the likes of the stands like Kyrgyzstan I've always wanted to do. I'm still waiting for my Tajikistan visa, but I think it's going to be quite late in the season to do the Pamir Highway, but it's an option. So yeah, I think just the unknown, I'm ready for it. So yeah, really all of that.
Like the unknown, a quote that you came across, and you sort of touched on this before when you were talking about the kindness and being able to give back. You said, the best thing about bike touring is the freedom, meeting incredible people around the world. Every day I receive an act of kindness and I hope to give this back to as many people as I can as well. The freedom is sort of what you're talking about there, the freedom of being on your own in these big spaces, but also it's not that we ever expect acts of kindness, but it's a given. You're going to have amazing moments with complete strangers on this journey.
Yeah, and, in times of vulnerability and when someone surprises you or, and yeah, I just love channeling everyone else's, like there's a lot of fear mongering before I leave. Of course, I speak to people and they're like, oh, like, what if someone comes up to you when you're camping, or what if someone follows you? And it's just never the case. It's always the case they're following me to give me a bottle of water, or they're following me to say hi. So I'm excited to change people's perspective, I hope. My close friends and family, show them that the world is kind. And yeah, I'm excited for it all. Yeah, can't wait.
It's something I've definitely learnt being the host of this show. It's interesting, Claire, because it's also something I've learnt about myself. And I guess it's just what I've grown up with and that sort of external fear that gets pushed on us as well. Apparently what you're doing is a really scary thing. And apparently, because you're a woman, it's even scarier.
Yeah.
And it's a topic that I specifically like to seek out with guests to show that counterpoint of actually, here's an amazing solo female who had an amazing experience and did all these things, and all those fears other people are pushing on them are not well-founded at all.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have swapped messages on this before as well. You don't even like it as a topic so much because it's almost giving airtime to something that doesn't necessarily deserve it.
Yeah.
I guess your experience of being a solo female has been a fantastic one.
It's been incredible. And I do want to note that, of course, I know that women have had issues on the road. So, and I know I can heard of a few people that have had problems on the road. So I know it is a thing, but my experience, it has been incredibly kind. And you have to believe in people. And yeah, I'm more scared in London than I am on a bike tour. So I just think I have to laugh at people when they say, wow, like when they talk about what's going to happen to me on the road when they've never been to the country, and just these big generalizations. And I'm like, look at our own country first. Like there's a lot of scary things going on. Yeah, it's just being positive mindset. As I think I've said quite a few times on the other podcasts, people are good. And I can't wait to hopefully showcase all of that.
If someone came up to you, Claire, and said, I want to take this on, but I'm really scared because I'm a solo female and stuff, what would you say to them then?
It's difficult because I just don't know. I just really just tell them people are good and you've got to let go of that fear. Otherwise, you're just going to ride scared, and that's not fun either. It's you have to push through that and just remember the good people and the people you're going to meet and let people come and say hi, or like, I don't know, the interactions are what the journey's about. So closing yourself off from interaction. I you know, when I'm on tour, sometimes I go sit on a bench and I wait for people, like, and then someone will come and sit next to you and you get a chat. So I think just being open, telling them that, kindness is everywhere and not to overthink what could go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Not overthink it. I certainly know with myself, that just is a rolling momentum of thoughts that you don't need. It becomes a vicious cycle of catastrophizing sometimes.
I've been very close to it in the last couple of weeks, catastrophizing, and then I've just really been very like, come on, Claire, like, you've done all of this ride and you know that there's just good people. So that's where I'm like, not even letting my mind go anywhere near anything negative, because it's just not good. you can't think.
Exactly. I need to grab this little clip for you as a soundbite and send it to you. So if there's any catastrophizing you personally have, you can just listen to yourself, remind yourself of this stuff as well.
Exactly. I actually took I voice recorded myself the other day because I'm so interested, like, the feelings that I had 2 weeks ago. I think the emotions are so interesting that you have, because I could barely get out of bed the other 2 weeks ago. I was so unhappy with the decisions I was choosing, and then to now feel absolutely just excitement, and by video clip saying, I'm not sure I'm going to get on the plane. And then I was like, no, you're getting on the plane. And it would just be really interesting to like watch it back in years to come and be like, you have to overcome the fear, because of course there's fear. I think it'd be odd if I didn't have a bit of worry. So I like to see where I come in that stance, like how I change.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is you get to reflect back on all the experience that you've built up along the way as well. And that's a really good thing. I often think when you've taken such a big tour and you've done it in the most part solo, you learn about yourself, but you learn a self-assuredness that you couldn't learn in other ways.
Yeah, for sure. Something
else that you've learned is you've learned about so many different places. And something that I love that you've started doing is you've been putting together, like, I guess, bike touring guides or informational travel guides and stuff for places as well.
Yeah, I did a full-on one for Sri Lanka, and I wish I'd carried on. I've got all the information for other countries, but yeah, I've made like a 40-page manual for Sri Lanka of how to ride it, basically. And I'd love to make more. They're just very time-consuming, but I've got all the information. Yeah, and I sold them for a £5 and I got a few sold, and yeah, it's just nice to have all that information somewhere. And I enjoyed making it, because you then reflect on the trip again and remember the names and the cafes and the places you went and the towns that you liked. And that's why it's really I'm definitely going to keep a diary for this trip. Every night I'm going to write. Yeah, so I hopefully have some good information on this route as well.
It's also like great information for other people. And listeners, I'm going to provide a link to it in the show notes. I've seen this guide and it's amazing, Claire. Like, the amount of detail, only someone who's done the thing could come up with it. So I think knowing you've got so much experience is brilliant. Reflecting back and writing a journal and taking the time, it's an awesome thing for you to personally be able to do, to reflect back on and remind yourself what you've done as well.
No, I'm Australia. I mean, I've got a book ready, but I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. But I mean, I've got 300 pages and I'm so happy because I wrote all of that there. I mean, I've edited bits, but it's all what I wrote on the night. So it's really raw emotion and like things I would have forgotten, like all the small things I would have forgotten. So when I get back and I've got more time, I will put it into a book and get it printed. I'm so happy that I wrote that.
Claire, I know that you've got people way above me in your closeness chain, in family and friends, but I'm so putting myself to the top of the list of people who wants to buy the very first copy of your book.
You've got a copy with your name on it. I'll hand deliver it to you on a bike.
Oh, it'll be amazing. And I'm so glad you're taking the time to do it. I know I've quipped with you in previous episodes and offline as well. Like, you are modern day Dervla Murphy to me, and I love that. And I love that you are taking the time to journal and reflect back on your journey as well, because I think it's definitely something I've done. And again, caveat, I've not taken trips like you, but I have done my own journeys, which are special to me as well. And it's something that I've chosen to do just on the last few. Funnily enough, I've realised I've really become a podcaster, because instead of writing for some of my trips, I've just done audio messages and logs.
Yeah, that's cool.
Even hearing what I'm thinking about at the start of a day to the end of a day has been so...
Yeah. No, I think your mind goes places and you're like, oh, maybe I was just tired that day, or, just different. Yeah, what you write is how you really feel. I think it's awesome.
When we talk about write and language and stuff, like, you're going to places where language is so starkly different. And I think of Southeast Asia as a place where, you're in Thailand, you can't even read the language.
Yeah.
I guess you've had experience of that. Is there stuff that you've been preparing yourself for the countries you do know you're going through? Like, are you taking the time to learn some of the languages or sayings as well?
Yeah, so I am very lucky. I've got some friends that know Russian and Chinese. So I've got some sentences I need to print out today, actually. Thank you for reminding me. That I'm going to have a printout of, I think it's like, tells what I'm doing and then says, do you know where I could sleep tonight? Is there anywhere I could get some food? Water, thank you. All the classic bike touring questions. So I've got those all translated, which is really kind.
That's randomly reminded me of something. I think it was Mackenzie Barney did this, and I'm sure other guests have done it before as well. And they did exactly that. They took in multiple different languages, printed out an excerpt of who they are, what they're doing and where they're going and stuff to be able to show a local. And that was really handy for them a number of times.
Yeah, I think it just really helps with that. If you're struggling with an interaction, I think it's the perfect thing to be able to say, if you're putting up your tent and someone comes over to you and gives you, maybe that you're too close to their house or something, at least you've got something that says this is what I'm doing. And yeah, I think it's going to be really helpful.
Yeah, we live in a day where we can depend on our amazing device called a smartphone.
I know. But
we're not always in reception. You certainly won't be.
I know, I'm thinking, I think it's going to be bare minimum reception. And I'm very chilled out. I don't know why, Australia had my sat phone and I checked in every day, but I'm going to try and enjoy the journey a bit more. And if I don't have signal, I don't have signal. So my poor family aren't quite happy with that. But, I've said it's going to be more of a weekly check-in and I don't think I'll have much signal. So it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to have more time to write and do other stuff off my phone.
Oh, you definitely embrace those moments, and I think you're seeking them out too, which is part of the reason of your why of this trip. It's not just about seeing places.
Yeah.
You know that you like time with yourself as well.
Yeah, and just off grid and just put the phone down and enjoy it. Yeah, no, I'm really excited.
It was interesting. I recently took a really very short trip. It was just 2 nights in the tent, and where we were was no phone signal, and it was so liberating to know that it doesn't matter what I want to do. I can't find out. And it's even little things like you'll be talking with someone and the amount of times you just turn to a phone to Google the answer or something.
Yeah, or Google where the nearest coffee is instead of going to find it with your eyes.
Yeah.
And then I do think travel's completely changed with phones. You look before you even go to a country for the restaurants that you want to eat in. You don't stroll and find an incredible restaurant, a hidden gem. So yeah, it's going to be, I'm excited. I love that. I am a bit old school in that sense. I'm excited for not having to work because that was a huge thing for me. Like if I was connected every day in Australia and it was a big panic if I didn't have signal and I had to answer emails. I was in the outback next to a phone tower organising someone's trip to, California. And I was always connected. So I'm really excited to be off grid in that sense with no work.
I think it's great the way that you're embracing all of this. We were talking about before about journaling, and you've written a book that I can't wait to see. The benefit of that is being able to reflect back on the experiences you've had. There's a question I've been asking all of my guests more recently, especially this year, and that is, can you tell me about one day of your trip? Now, it always feels like such a cheeky question to ask a guest that's had over 40,000 kilometres of journey to reflect back on in so many different countries. But I am asking you, Claire, I want you to take me there. Take me to one day of your trip. Any country, anywhere, can be a good thing, a bad thing, an unexpected thing. But take me and the listeners there right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I think it's got... The first one comes to mind is Tasmania for its wilderness. This was actually before I set off for the big trip. I did a weekend test ride and I just rode out, and the wilderness, it was just this one way out and then you have to come back the same road. So it's in and out situation. And I was just, again, those moments of awe. I saw my first wombat. I was just blown away by Tasmania. The road was, I can't even explain. It just made me think we haven't completely messed this planet up. Like it was just me, no cars, wilderness, like the forestry and the trees. And I was just like, we haven't messed it up yet completely. And then I rode out, and then my friends joined 6 hours later in a car, and we had the most incredible evening. They brought the wine and I'd done what I loved, and then they came to join, and we just had a really amazing trip. I mean, that is one of, I don't even think that's a very good example, but I'm just trying to talk about like the wilderness and that sense of being alone. that day in Tasmania will stick with me for a while.
I think of this, and funnily enough, I think of Tasmania and New Zealand similar in that sort of wilderness landscape. They look totally different, but there's a sense of purity there. The New Zealand tourism body used to have an ad which was like Pure, I think it was, and it was like, when you go to New Zealand, it's like you're breathing pure oxygen or something.
Yeah,
and I picture Tasmania and the wilderness you're talking about to be exactly the same.
Yeah, I think because it was early on in my trip as well, like that felt remote and that wasn't remote. I mean, that was very close. Really, it was, I think, from Hobart, only a couple of 100k outside of Hobart. But at the time, it was like, oh my gosh, this is remote.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 6 months, I was ran down the middle of Australia. So I think I just like it for that kind of, it was early on in my trip, and naively I thought that's how remote it was going to be, and it was way, way, way more remote than that.
The outback's calling, hey Claire, hold my beer.
Yeah, literally, I could show you more. Exactly. But yeah, honestly, I mean, there's so many days I could tell, so many things that happened in Australia that are in the book. Yeah, it's good. That's going to be funny.
I will never tire of hearing one day of your trip, Claire. In fact, I highlight your own stories sharing one day of your trip midweek on the podcast. I know these interviews are really long form, but midweek you get, an episode that's about 10 minutes long, which is people sharing days of their trip.
Yeah, that's cool.
If you're keen to share your own days, get in touch with me and you can get involved as well. Claire, if you ever feel like sharing another day, I'll put you there on a midweek.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it when I'm out there on the road.
Done. Deal. Virtual handshake across the screens.
Done.
Oh my goodness, Claire. People who are just listening to you for the first time, new listeners to the show, I definitely encourage you to seek out Claire's previous episodes, and I will link them in the show notes. But if they want to follow your adventures along, what's going to be the best way to follow this journey from Mongolia back to the UK?
I think Instagram. I'm having a bit of an internal battle with social media at the moment. I struggle with it, but I want to share it as well. So it's Instagram, and I might do a little newsletter thing where I email out, but I'm going to just get my feet on the ground in Mongolia, see what the internet's like, and if I can get some writing out there, I'd love to do a weekly email out to people. Yeah, social media is great, but I keep seeing these like day one, and I don't think that's going to be my style, because I just think I just want to just be on the road. I'll do some videos, but yeah, I think Instagram will be the go.
It's amazing how that's all changed, isn't it? It's like my algorithm. Obviously, I host a podcast with bicycle travellers, so my algorithm is so skewed that way. And it provides me with a lot of joy, but it's all of a sudden you see the new trends in social media, and it has all become that day, of my trip from here to here. Blah, 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 I rode up, I went here, I saw this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wow, I mean, it's a great video, and I love watching the reel, but everyone's doing that now.
And that's where I'm struggling with, because, a few... Yeah, people have suggested that I do that and I'll get loads more followers. And I was like, I don't care about followers. So it's that kind of Devlin Murphy-ness in me that's like, I don't want to do the trend, and like maybe I'll just write about it instead. So I'm sure I'll be posting a fair amount. I'm excited to share it, but also going to not go out of my way to find Wi-Fi either. So it'll be hit and miss.
Claire, I'm the first person to buy a book, and I'm the first person to subscribe to your update newsletter. So I'm on the list. Don't even think twice. I can't wait to see it as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'd be more than happy. I'll feature you in a Seek Travel Ride newsletter as we go along as well. That would be brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I need to wrap the show up. I never want to wrap a show up with you, Claire, because we chat so much before we press record, and I feel like chatting to you, it's like an old friend, like you pick up where you left off.
Absolutely.
And I can see the excitement there. You're hours away from leaving, and I am just mega excited for you. Heaps to look forward to. I'm
literally sleeping in the airport tonight. So it's my flight's at 6, and I was like, Mum, you don't, like, otherwise she's going to have to get up at 2. So I was like, let's go down tonight and I'll sleep in the airport next to my bike box. That's how you start a good trip. So if anyone sees me sleeping in London Heathrow, that's me.
Oh, I wish I could board a flight there now. And I hope that does not sound creepy. You know what would be cool? You don't want to do the social media.
Yeah.
If you could remind yourself to take a photo of everywhere that you sleep each day and then reflect back on that. That'd be an interesting journal, wouldn't it?
That would be cool, actually, where I sleep. Yeah. Set up the tent tonight. I can't believe it, but I'm so ready as well.
That's brilliant. Well, Claire, I have already got you on the Seek Travel Ride music playlist. I'm pretty sure I've got a song from Lizzo on there.
Yeah, I want to take that back, actually. I don't listen to her.
And you were dancing to it when you broke your rack on your pannier or something.
Yeah, I was,
in
yeah.
the Outback.
Yes. I haven't listened to her since.
Well, this is quite apt. We get to add another song to the Seek Travel Ride music playlist for you. Yeah, there's not many guests get more than one song, so this is a privilege,
Yeah, gosh.
which I'm happy to share with you. What song are you going to pick?
I have been listening to Florence and the Machine non-stop the last couple of weeks. So say my name, Florence and the Machine.
I love Florence.
Yeah, she's just a legend.
There's 2 Florence songs on there already, too, and it's not one of those, so that's brilliant.
There you go, yeah.
We'll get the whole album on soon.
Yeah, she's just an iconic artist that, I'm just re-listening to her albums and, love it.
Well, I'm a fan. Okay, Say My Name, Florence and the Machine. You are there on the playlist. I nearly feel like I should also add Get Jiggy with it.
Yeah, I know.
Given this is your 3rd episode, having 3 songs is probably apt, so keep your eye out. I might do that.
Do that.
This playlist is ridiculously long now. It's like over 4 hours.
I need to download it, actually. I'll download it for the trip.
You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, and I had someone request recently to put it on YouTube Music, which I didn't know was a thing, so it's on there now as well.
Cool.
If you want 4 hours of listening to eclectic tracks, but it takes you on the journeys of my guests, feel free. The Seek Travel Ride music playlist is for you. Okay, Claire, final 2 questions. You know them because I've asked you them before. I was tempted to change them just for you, but I want consistency across your journeys. The first one is, you're given a choice one day. You get to cycle up the most monumentally steepest, biggest, never-ending hill climb in the world. I could be mean and say there's no view and you're hemmed in. There's 2 concrete walls either side, but I don't know that I should do that. Or you can choose to cycle on a dead flat road but into a monumental headwind. Which one are you going to choose?
I'm changing my mind because I'm staying positive and I know I've got headwinds coming, so I'm choosing headwinds. Because they're coming, I know I'm going to have them. So I've got to change my...
I love that you're choosing headwinds. I don't know why, because I don't. You get to be added to the rare list of guests who choose headwinds.
I know, because the last one I was like, I hate headwinds, but I think I'm just preparing mentally, for all the headwinds. Ask me in a couple of weeks' time and I'll probably say never.
Embrace them. I've had a few guests who've chosen headwind after being battered monumentally by some of the most extreme headwinds. And they've still chosen it because even in the moment they didn't like it, they learnt just how strong they were within themselves.
100%, yeah.
And I love the idea that you can flip something like that and find the silver lining.
It's got to be done.
The last one, I feel I know the answer to this. You've probably heard it twice already. You have a choice one day. You can cycle for 4 hours on your own or 4 hours with other people. Which one would you choose to do?
I can't remember what I said to this last time, but with people, I know I've said I like alone time, but yeah, 4 hours with my favourite people, 100%.
If the question wasn't 4 hours and it was you get to cycle on your own or you get to cycle with others, would you change your mind?
Yeah, on my own. 4 hours I can do. It's interesting because people, I think I've got a weird personality because I come home and I love to be with everyone every day, and then I go and I enjoy the peace and the alone time. So it's funny because I like both. So yeah.
I think the way you've done your trips as well is you've given yourself a great balance of both. You allow yourself to be in the moment in your trip, and then when you're back at home, you're filling yourself up, you're filling and energizing being around what you've missed for so long, which is your family and your friends. So
yeah, filling the cup up.
Who knows what the reason is, but maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think you got it.
Well, Claire Wyatt, I'm going to wrap it up. You are the first person to be here 3 times as a guest. I'm so chuffed that you are. I am ridiculously excited to see your journey. Mongolia to the UK. I have a passion for one-day riding in Mongolia, so I really can't wait to see and hear and learn from you about what it was like to be there, riding along the steppes, seeing those big, wide open landscapes and being invited into Gers and seeing those huts. It will be amazing.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and experiences on the show here for Seek Travel Ride. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Bella, and can't wait to get to cycle with you one day. And yeah, thank you again for sharing and putting so much work into these podcasts. We all love it. I love listening to them. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, listeners, I hope that you are as ridiculously excited as I am, having just listened to Claire's story there. Something that has come through each and every time I've recorded an episode with Claire is just how much she really, really yearns being out there on her bike, exploring places and discovering them. And also, she just savours being in that moment as well. Being on her own, pushing her boundaries, learning about places for the first time. It's absolutely fills me with joy. I know that this journey from Mongolia to the UK will be so vastly different to other ones that she's taken, but I also know that she's gathered so much experience along the way. I've mentioned it before, the proverbial experience that goes into those panniers that you pack along that let you know that you can get through and solve the problems that may come your way on a bike tour. Claire has got these in spades, and I really can't wait to watch her trip unfold. It's a journey she's thought about for years, and to know that very soon she's going to be boarding the plane, landing in Ulaanbaatar and taking it on, I'm just so happy she's made the decision to go ahead and do this. Now, if you enjoy listening to the stories of people who are taking monumental adventures like Claire and you would like to support the podcast, you can do so really easily. I've provided a link in the show notes to my Buy Me a Coffee page. That's just a really quick and easy way where you can support the show. Click the link, buy me that coffee, and keep these microphones on and these stories of guests rolling out each and every week. And until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening.